Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be reviewing Season 23 of Classic Doctor Who, the Trial of a Time Lord season. And we're going to be talking about all four stories, and I say four stories, not one story, that make up this season. So, Season 23 is an interesting time. The show had just come, or is just coming back from a hiatus. Of course, after Season 22, we had the 18-month hiatus, which is way too long to give people a gap between Doctor Who. The modern series has a problem with this with taking years off as well. So the original Season 23 was supposed to be very different. It was supposed to stick with 14 episodes in the 45-minute format, I believe, and you had a bunch of stories being drafted. Some of them later got turned into novelizations. Then they found out, rather later than it should have been, that they were going to get 14 episodes, but they were cutting them back down to the 25-minute format, and so they had to completely dump the original plans for Season 23 and come up with stuff from scratch. And they decided to take this very meta approach, because the show was very much on trial at the time. The people in charge of the BBC didn't care for it. They wanted to get rid of it. Michael Grade famously didn't like it, thought it looked cheap. So they decided to put the Doctor on trial to kind of reflect what was happening in the show in real life. I think this was a mistake, because I consider Trial of the Time Lord to be the weakest classic Doctor Who season. My least favorite classic Doctor Who season. And of the four stories that make up this season, I think two of them are good. I think one of them is okay, and I only think one of them is bad. So that's really 3 out of 4. It's batting a pretty good average there. But the trial scenes really break it up a lot, especially like, because I don't watch Trial of a Time Lord just as one long story. I just can't do it. I'd go crazy. I think I did it back when the box set first came out, even though I'd seen some of the stories before. I'm a little confused. I forget, actually. But I think I watched it all then. But mostly it's just I watch individual stories, which one I'm in the mood for. And I really think, especially the first 3 stories, I would enjoy a lot more as standalone stories. Matter of fact, the trial-less version of Terror of the Vervoids is the definitive version of Terror of the Vervoids for me. I enjoy it like that. I remember the trial scenes become less bothersome the longer I'm watching. Like in Mysterious Planet, that first time when you've been on the planet, caught up in events that's happening in the episode for a while, and it cuts back to that trial scene for the first time, really. The first time it really cuts back is very jarring, pulls me right out of the moment. It gets better as the story progresses because you get more used to it, but it still always stops the action to deal with that when I'd rather be dealing with the story, because I actually like the story in Mysterious Planet. It's got glitz. I love glitz. So this is a much shorter season. This was the start of the 4-story season we would get for the rest of Doctor Who. Seasons 23, 24, 25, and 26. There are 4 stories, 2 4-parters and 2 3-parters traditionally, but not this season. We have 3 4-parters and 1 2-parter. Basically 14 episode seasons, 14 half-hour episode seasons, what we get for the remainder of classic Doctor Who. Also, this, I believe, was the first season they switched to doing all of the location work with outside video camera. No more film for location footage, which is a shame. That means everything is shot in standard definition. So no more film elements, maybe some model shots, but not the location work. It is the outside cameras from this point on. We lose Perry early on. I do think the Doctor and Perry are better here. I do enjoy how they get on with each other better in Mysterious Planet and Mind Warp, especially Mysterious Planet, but also in Mind Warp. We get introduced to Mel in Terror of the Vervoids and Ultimate Fall. I'm not a big fan of Mel. It's nothing against my mind just went blank. Bonnie Langford. Nothing against Bonnie Langford. Mel just never got fleshed out. She's not there long. She only does like a season and a half. And she really only has 6 stories. But I mean, she's very much a regression of the companion. She really is just kind of that damsel in distress. But Doctor, and screams. She's got a heck of a scream, but she's she feels more like, say, Susan or something. She just really, anytime people talk about how Classic Who had strong, well-defined female companions, and it does, you have somebody point to Mel and you're like, crap. Just, yeah, I like the fact that the modern series has fleshed her out a little better. A little, I thought I saw something. A little better. I like the fact the modern series has done more with her. But definitely neither of them are companions that I'm really fond of. They'd both be on my lower side of the list, so that kind of hurts it. Colin's still good in this. He's still kind of reined it in. He's reined in kind of from where he was, especially from Twin Dilemma, but even from season 22. He has some really good speeches here. His speech in Mysterious Planet about stars, planets vanish, you know, coalesce, reform, other patterns, other worlds. I love that speech. It's a beautiful speech. And then he, of course, he also has that speech about, in, what is it, Ultimate Foe, maybe? When he's calling out the Time Lords, you know, throughout all my travels, I have battled against evil, against power-mad conspirators. I love the power-mad conspirators speech. I should have stayed here. I love that. And Colin nails it. He kills it. That could be his GOAT speech, although I like the other one a lot, too. He does have some really good dialogue. His speech when he finds out when Perry dies. Perry? You killed Perry. And even earlier when he first knows she's missing. Speaking of which, where is Perry? Well, you left her. Let's talk about Michael. Was it Jaston? Is that how you say his name? Michael Jaston? I love him as the Valeyard. He is so good as the Valeyard. He is so good. He just plays the menace of the... I mean, just his gaze and his look, you get the menace behind him. I mean, the outfit doesn't really help to make you think he's a good guy. His outfit does communicate evil dude. But just the way Michael plays it with his steely gaze, it's like in my mind's eye, you never really even see him blink. I mean, I'm sure he blinks, but like in my mind's eye, it's like he never blinks. He's so good at playing that role. And I love the fact that Michael did so much behind the scenes stuff, like on the season 23 and the season 20. I think he's on the season 22 box set as well, doing stuff like behind the scenes maybe. I like that he shows up for like behind the sofas and all that. I only know him really for Doctor Who, but when he passed, last year, I believe he passed last year, you know, it hit me. It sucked. I hated it because he just is so good in that role. And I loved, again, listening to him talk on the behind the scenes stuff. I really liked him. He really embodied that character well. And I can see him as kind of a evil mirror version of the Doctor. I like that. And plus I just like the concept of him being like a distilled version between two of his regenerations that wants the rest of his regeneration. That's fascinating. I love that idea. I do also like, was that Linda her name? The one playing the kind of special prosecutor, inquisitor type woman, the woman running the trial. I like her. Is that her name, Linda? She's really good. She's really, really good. My hat's off to her. I really, really like that. You don't really see a lot of female Time Lords in classic Doctor Who, especially in positions like that, and she nails it. She absolutely nails it. Now, my favorite story of the season is Mysterious Planet. I love Mysterious Planet. I actually reviewed it recently. Simon sent me the standard edition of season 23. Simon's a huge supporter of the channel, and he's been really good helping support me getting these. He's bought me 4 of these. I've bought 4, and then one of my other subscribers, Colin, has also bought me one as well. And Simon got season 23, and when he got it, he requested I review Mysterious Planet again, which is great with me. I love watching Mysterious Planet. So I have watched it recently and reviewed it recently. I enjoy the location work, even though it's shot on videotape, it looks good. I really love the speech between the Doctor and Perry in the forest, about how the planet seems familiar. Because again, they just seem they have much better chemistry as characters together. And I even like the fact he's picking at her, like when he talks about, he makes some little kind of shot at himself, poking fun at himself. And then he almost gives her a wink, but not quite, but he nudges her elbow. And I love that. It's just a playful little banter between them. And you kind of get the impression maybe they've been traveling together for a while. at this point, and I liked that. I liked the woman playing kind of the leader of the tribe. I thought she was a lot of fun in it. The guy playing kind of the head guard guy in the little fortress, the one that's actually playing kind of a double agent, I liked him a lot. The robot designs aren't the best in the world, but they're not the worst in the world. They're okay for Classic Who, certainly not its best. And I enjoyed the story. I like the incidental music a lot, too. Good incidental music, Mysterious Planet. It's Robert Holmes. It's Robert Holmes still nailing it out of the park. I mean, I know it might not be S-tier Robert Holmes, but it's still good Robert Holmes, and the dialogue is still Robert Holmes level dialogue. I love me some Bob Holmes. The last full Bob Holmes story we had, and I believe he was already sick when he was working on this story, and I still think he knocks it out of the park. It might not be a grand slam, but I think it's the home run that just kind of barely makes it over the bleachers for me. It's that one last home run. Maybe it barely clears the wall, but for me, it clears the wall. It's not the bases loaded grand slams he's done in the past, but it clears the wall. And then we have Mind Warp, which is easily my least favorite of the season. I don't like Mind Warp. It's one of my least favorite classic Doctor Who stories. Now, it does have Brian Blessed in it. It gets points for that. Brian Blessed. Love it. And then some of the... I like the look of the planet when they're outside and the sky's this weird color. That's a really neat looking effect for Classic Who. They pull that off well. And it's great seeing Seal back. I like Seal. Again, the guy who plays Seal is so good as Seal. My hat's off to that guy. Give him a BAFTA. He nails that. It's the story. I don't care for the story. I don't care for the kind of half dog looking guy. And I hate the ending with Perry. I hate the ending with Perry. I'm glad they retconned that because I hate the ending. Now, Nicola kills the ending. Don't get me wrong. She kills it. She's great. She is phenomenal in that ending. But I hate the idea of it. I'm glad it gets retconned because I absolutely hate it. I know Nicola wanted it, but I hate it because it would completely invalidate Caves of Androzani. He goes through all that trouble to save her and make that sacrifice in Caves of Androzani. So if she just died here, it would completely invalidate Caves of Androzani to me. Much like Gallifrey being destroyed again in the Chibnall era completely invalidates Tom Baker's cameo in Day of the Doctor, with him telling him to go find it because it just gets destroyed again. I still love that cameo with Tom Baker because it's Tom Baker and it's a beautiful moment. But it kind of invalidates it on a level that spins me into a level of pissed off that this world has never seen. I am infuriated at how much destroying all the Time Lords again makes that moment with the curator kind of pointless other than loving it for the moment that it is, and it's Tom Baker. And that really makes me angry. I really wish they would bring the Time Lords back proper in Modern Who and make them threatening again like they were in the War Games where the Doctor just wants to avoid them. Not where he's just like, get off my planet. But yeah, I feel like if Perry had died there, it would really have hurt the legacy of Caves of Androzani. So I'm glad they retconned that at the end in Ultimate Foe, because it makes the Fifth Doctor's sacrifice still mean something. And the fact that we got that wonderful short story for the Season 22 box set with Nicola back, and the fact they could bring Nicola back in the modern series if they wanted. And a lot of those short stories we get, those little mini episodes we get to advertise the box sets, those are canon for me. I count those as canon. Mel meeting the Seventh Doctor in the future, because that could have happened before she ended up on present-day Earth. I can believe that. The bit with Tegan and the Mara, I can believe that. All of those they've done. The one with Leela. The one with Victoria. I can believe all of those are canon. All of those are canon in my eyes. So I'm really happy that got retconned. But yeah, I just don't get into this one. Also, there's a lot of running around in caves, at least if my memory serves. I don't go back to this one much. I've seen it 2 or 3 times. That's about it. And the scenery just gets a little repetitive. I just don't care for it. And then we have Terror of the Vervoids, which I like. Again, my favorite version is the trial-less version, but I like Terror of the Vervoids. I like the set design. I like the guest cast. The Vervoid outfits are, on one hand, they're not bad, but on the other hand, they're a little unfortunate. And there's no way that one head design was done on accident. There's no way that was done on accident. And it's just one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so anytime you watch the story, you're just like kind of like, it just is what it is. From a story standpoint, I like it. It's a little silly, and then you have the B plot with the one guy who's hiding, who's in the armor, which is all right. I hate the fact the one kind of woman scientist died. The one that's, it's actually a famous actress. I don't know her. I'm an American, but I know it was a very big deal. She was on the show. You know, her death when she tries to talk to him, the doctor's like, don't. She's like, I must try. She's like, I am so-and-so. And they're like, we know who you are. And then they just kill her. It's so senseless. And that's a little bothersome. I like the fact they kill the one guy when he tries to shake hands with him just to find the needle in him. That's pretty cool. I kind of like the security guard guy. The one that's, I think he has a mustache. I forget. But he's actually like being paid under the side to work with some of the other groups. Of course, he ends up getting it too. But I like the actor playing him. I enjoyed this one. The set designs look nice. Mel is irritating, but slightly less irritating. I like the doctor in it. Trying to remember if this is the one where the doctor's friends with the captain. Isn't this it? Isn't he like friends with the captain that's going on? Like they know each other, I think. And if that's the one I'm thinking of, then I also like the guy playing the captain. So I do like Terror of the Vervoids. And then you have Ultimate Foe, which is okay. I think the first half is better than the second half. But with the circumstances surrounding that, that's understandable. The first half, of course, Bob Holmes. Bob Holmes' final story, even though he couldn't complete it, sadly. And that first half is really good. The second half, the fact that Pip and Jane Baker had to pretty much write that second half, blindfolded with one hand tied behind their back, that it came off as good as it did, speaks to their ability to write. Because, of course, Eric Saber was originally going to finish it, but J&T didn't like the original ending. Bob Holmes' original ending ended very much with a cliffhanger, with the Doctor and the Valyard tumbling into darkness. And J&T was scared that that would give the people above him exactly the excuse they needed to cancel the show. I agree with Jay. As much as I love Bob Holmes did write some pretty dark stuff, let's be honest. He was a gritty writer. I agree with J&T that I think a better ending was needed. I side with J&T on that one. I understand where Eric was coming from. I know Bob Holmes was kind of his mentor, and he wanted to respect his mentor's kind of final wishes for his final story. Totally get Eric on that. But between the two, I side with J&T. It needed the happier ending. So Eric Sayward not only decided not to write the final story, he would not let them use his outline or his story. He completely removed it. So J&T had to get Pip and Jane Baker to write it, and he couldn't tell them anything that was supposed to happen. So they had to come up with how to end the story themselves. And considering all of that, they pull it off fairly well. It's not as good as the second part, and there's other directions I wished it had taken, but it's not bad. It's okay. It's okay. It's that okay slightly edging into good, but I give it a really hard pass because the fact of the circumstances, and I feel bad for Pip and Jane Baker because so much of the stories they had to do for this show are in circumstances like this that I think they pull off this ending well, and I think it ends the series pretty decently. I feel like the Valyard went out a little too easily, and I love the Doctor's last final lines, but it pulls it off very well, especially with only 2 parts. Pip and Jane Baker are interesting because I think they only did 3 stories, maybe 4. Is it 3 or 4? 3? Because I know they did Mark of the Ronnie, Time of the Ronnie, and Ultimate Foe Part 2. Did they have another one? Or is that it? I forget. But Ultimate Foe Part 2 being written in these circumstances, and then you look at the circumstances going on with Time and the Ronnie, which has its own behind-the-scenes problems. I really feel like the only story they got to write, where they actually got to ride it smoothly and not with their backs up against the wall was Mark of the Ronnie, which is fantastic. Mark of the Ronnie is my favorite season 22 story. Mark of the Ronnie is great. And then the fact that their other two stories, which were very much written with their backs up against the wall, in a hurry, with stuff changing all the time, the fact that those stories came out well as well. You know, Ultimate Foe Part 2 is okay. And Time in the Ronnie I like Time in the Ronnie. It's not like classic Doctor Who. It's not the best post-regeneration story, but I don't think it's bad. Certainly a lot better than Delta and the Bannerman. I don't think it's a bad story. It's an okay, edging into good, has some good stuff going on in its story. So I actually really think Pip and Jane Baker deserve a bit more praise than they get, considering that. And then that's it. That really ends the story. I mean, if I was ranking the season, I would have Mind Warp at the bottom. Ultimate Foe would be in third. Terror of the Vervoids in second. Mysterious Planet at first. With those being really the two good stories of the season. Bob Holmes, like I said, really going out with a strong swing. Really strong swing. And he does a good job on even the Ultimate Foe Part 1. I enjoy a lot of the stuff it sets up. I really would love to get... I'd love to know how that was originally supposed to end. Like, I wonder if Eric Sayward has ever published his original outline. I'd love to read how the original version of Ultimate Foe was originally supposed to go. That would be fascinating to know how it was actually supposed to wrap up before Bob passed away. So, not my least favorite... it's not my favorite season. My least favorite Classic Who season. But it's still got good stuff going on in it. It does have both the companions that kind of let it down. But Colin is good in it. I enjoy Michael in it a lot. I enjoy the guest cast. I love... Again, is that Linda? Is that her name? She's really good in it. There's definitely good stuff going on here. Also, the ending when the Valeyard appears, where the guy who holds the Matrix key, who I believe was also the security guy with the glasses in the War Games, was it not? I forget. I think that's him. You know, and suddenly it's the Valeyard's face instead. That's really weird. I know they explained that a little more in the Brink of Death audio, but that's such an odd cliffhanger. But still, it's certainly a better season than some of the seasons we've gotten in the modern series. A few of the seasons we've gotten in the modern series, honestly. But my least favorite of classic Doctor Who. So what do you think of Season 23, The Trial of a Time Lord, and the 4 stories that make up this season? Comment down below, and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. I do want to give a shout out to Finn Perkins, who just rejoined the Patreon recently. Joined at my top tier, my $45 tier. First time I've ever had someone join that. Matter of fact, it's limited to only 2 people. He joined that to help me out. I know Finn in real life. He's a really nice guy, really good guy. Me and him get on really well. He's actually the person who gave me my desktop setup. I think I've talked before about how somebody I know actually gave me my desktop setup, my webcam, my HD monitor, my desktop. He's actually the person who he found out I did a YouTube channel. He likes to support stuff like that. And he literally just gave them to me. It was really nice of him. Really great guy. Really awesome to have him back on the Patreon as well. Also want to give a shout out to Unknown289, who moved up tiers recently. He moved up from the $15 tier to the $20 tier. I want to give him a huge shout out. He's been supporting the channel for a long, long time. And I also want to give a shout out to a couple of my other top tier members, Colin Coney, who's also been with me a long time, and Sam Venning, who has been here for a few months now. I hope Sam is doing well. I do appreciate all of you supporting the channel. I appreciate all of my patrons at all of the tier levels, and even my both of my YouTube members as well, Shamrock and Tardis Spider, who you see down in the comments a lot. I really appreciate everyone who supports the channel. Including my subscribers. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't yet. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. A link to my Amazon wish list is down there. A link to my Amazon UK wish list is also down there. I believe on the Amazon UK wish list, I've added the Box of Delights to it. I had never heard of that before the Blu-ray was announced, but apparently that's a big deal over in Britain, the Box of Delights. I know it has Patrick Troughton in it. I believe 2024 was its 40th anniversary. And I hear it's really good. I'd never heard, most of you know I'm in the States. I've never heard of that. I'm interested in seeing it. And the deal I made, I think I mentioned this in other videos, if someone sends it, I will watch it and review it. So I have added that to the list. I update the list pretty regularly, so check that out. Most importantly, thank you for watching.